and we are delighted that you're here. We're celebrating September. Our theme is basic education and literacy, and so today's program is very appropriate as we try to jumpstart children into literacy. Our speaker today is doing that at his Rotary Club, which is River Falls. Tony.
There you go.
I'm so terrible with this. Tony
Smith.
No, Tony, no, say your last name again, I'm sorry.
Pedriana.
Pedriana, I love that name. It's really melodic. So anyway, Tony Pedriana we're very excited to learn more about this good program that is being implemented at River Falls Rotary. And so now Tony was an educator for 35 years, and he's going to give you the background on what he is doing and how effective it is. So Tony, it's all yours.
I guess first I need to share my screen. So I'm going to click share screen, and I'm going to click, hold on just a minute. I've got to make sure that I've got the right screen on here.
Okay.
Slideshow, play from start. Okay, now, is that okay? I can't see everybody, I just can see you, but is there a way that I can make it so I can see others, or doesn't it matter?
I think when you put your share screen up, when you do the speaker view.
Yeah, I did do that.
Yeah. I think it's really going to be mainly they're going to focus on your share screen, Tony, your presentation.
Okay, so it's not necessary for me to
right.
be every. Okay, no. All right. All right. Well, thank you.
Now your screen hasn't shared yet, so.
Oh, you have to allow me. God damn it.
Kathy.
Yep, I'm here. We just walked through the steps. Let's just share it. Let's just try it one more time. Let's go through the green share button.
You want me to do that?
Yeah, you have to do it. You have authority.
You're the boss, Tony.
Okay, I've got to go here. All right. Oh my goodness.
You're fine. So we have the green share button, and just choose the screen you want to share.
Yeah, except the screen I'm showing here isn't. This is what makes me, it worked perfectly with us yesterday.
Yep, so we got it. We can do this.
On here, and I have to go to meetings. I've got meetings, home. All I'm seeing is, gosh.
So we're going to go on the Zoom screen. There's a green share screen button, and
yeah,
that's where we're going to click.
I saw it earlier, and I clicked on it, and
okay.
It came on, but now you tell me that it's not sharing. I don't.
Nope. So
don't you have to share it twice? Don't you do it?
Every computer is a little different, so we'll just kind of walk through it and do it one more time.
We may have to. You may have to start over because I'm not getting the screen I'm accustomed to seeing in order to do this. Oh boy. Okay.
Good job.
Kathy and I met for the exact purpose of making sure that something like that didn't happen, but there's nothing you can do, I guess. It's just be another one of those anecdotes that we'll laugh about later. Okay, so are you ready for me to begin?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, this talk had originally been scheduled as a breakout session for the Conference of Clubs back in May. So it's nice to finally get this chance to talk about children's literacy and the Jumpstart Model. I'd like to thank several people in that regard. Paul Perez and Patricia McLeese. They have spearheaded literacy initiatives in the district. And I believe Paul called for a committee for the specific purpose of trying to find as many model literacy projects in all of 5960. And and Patricia for heading up the literacy task force, which I believe is going to be resurrected. Kathy Hewitt for her dynamic leadership and her assistance in bringing this all to you today, however problematically. And finally, the River Falls Rotary Club for its support of Jumpstart and other literacy initiatives at the local level. J.W. Matheson, our current president, board members Chris Blasius, Rick Wilson, and Kendra Morgan. Okay, now I realize that there has always been a lot of competition between our two states. So while I have specific objectives for this talk, I'd like to just begin by telling you what I won't do. I will not, I promise you, I will not focus on any cross-state rivalries. Nothing like that will ever happen here. I will not bring that up. Now that I've alienated pretty much all of you, I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I started as a teacher in Milwaukee. I just wanted to say that spent 35 years in the central city in one of the most economically depressed areas of the country. After retiring as a principal, I continued to work as a principal mentor, helping others identify problems and develop action plans to work them out. Children's literacy was always at the forefront of my efforts, and it always bothered me that so many kids pass through our doors without attaining the requisite skills to succeed in life, despite all my training, both pre and post service. It wasn't until late in my career that I began to question the methods we use to teach kids to read, eventually learning that most, if not all of them, had no basis in scientific fact. I felt so betrayed in that regard, it prompted me to write the book, Leaving Johnny Behind, and exposing that chasm between what normally happens in classrooms and what actually works best. But I'm not here to talk about that, the book. We're here to talk about kids at early levels and giving them a jump start before they ever set foot in a classroom. So here are my goals for this talk today. I want to talk a little bit about the literacy rates in the United States and look at Minnesota and Wisconsin. I'm going to tell you, and maybe perhaps most of you already know, the most significant predictor of reading success. Now, I'm not talking about when a kid is in kindergarten. I'm talking about when a kid is born or in his first few years of school. I'm sorry, in his first few years of life. I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to back it up with science. I'll give you, I don't want to bore you with these things, but I just want to make a point that the stuff that I'm going to be talking about has a basis in scientific fact. All of the studies I will cite, all have large sample sizes, control groups, subject to blind peer review, and yield a statistically significant result. And so they're not the kind of studies that are observational or anecdotal. This worked good once at this place, so it must work good everywhere. It has numeric ratios for its ability to work as it's meant to. I'm going to tell you what the Jumpstart does to address that science, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how others can replicate it, because it's really not that hard. So the U.S. has slipped pretty significantly among developed nations. We were in the top 5 in the 1970s, and we may have even been number 1 at one point. Then in 2014, and we dropped to 14th, 17th in 2012, and finally 25th. This is from the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, which tracks these things. You'll notice the picture of the youngster there we can talk about this and we can suffer consequences, but it's heartbreaking for kids when they're not learning to read, and when they watch others all around them learn to read properly. It really creates a situation for a young child that they should never have to be subjected to. The financial economic cost is staggering, $225 billion a year in crime, because those who don't read well tend to be more frequently adjudicated, find their way in the criminal justice system. That causes lowered productivity and a loss of revenue, tax revenue, due to unemployment. And then again, because those who don't read well tend to be less healthy, it costs us an additional $232 billion a year in healthcare costs. Again, that's from the OECD. So let's look a little bit at Minnesota and Wisconsin and how they've done. This is from the NAEP, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the so-called Nation's Report Card. When kids take the test at grade 4, the kids take the NAEP scores them at grades 4, 8, and 12. Well, I'm concentrating on grade 4 for a specific reason. It's because children who finish 3rd grade below level with inadequate literacy ability are significantly less likely to ever achieve that status. So it's a watershed year. But they break it up into advanced, proficient, basic, and below basic. And what you're going to see here in both Wisconsin, Minnesota, and in the country is a pretty bad situation. That line right here shows that these numbers are all kids who are at basic levels, which is to say they're below proficient. When you are below basic, which is this category, you really can't read at all. So it's a pretty low score. And look, we've got a full third of our kids are in that below basic level. Now, we may not know about those kids because we don't see them all that much. Those are the venues that we frequent. We're not likely to see these kids, but they're out there, and they're there more significantly than you can imagine. The same is true here in Wisconsin. In fact, our numbers are almost exactly the same. But 2/3 of our kids are below proficient. 2/3. And look at the small number of kids who read at advanced levels. So it's not a pretty picture, unfortunately. So one of my objectives was to tell you what is the best predictor of later reading success. And you can yell it out if you want. Maybe you already know it. If you read the description of this talk, you probably know it. It's, you got it? You got it? It's books in the home. So that's all I can say at this point. It just makes a huge difference, and I'm going to prove it to you, I hope, hopefully. The science behind that, going back all the way to 1985, Becoming a Nation of Readers, they found that it was the most significant factor to later reading competency. A crucial resource, an analysis of nearly 100,000 US children found that access to printed materials is a critical variable affecting reading acquisition. It also leads to increased schooling. Children growing up in homes with many books get 3.2 years more schooling than children from bookless homes. And it doesn't matter what their parents' education, occupation, and class are. This is as great an advantage as having university educated rather than unschooled parents, and twice the advantage of having a professional rather than an unskilled father. So just the fact of having them there is a huge, huge factor in whether a child will eventually come to learn to read. I'm going to tell you in a little while why is that the case. Hopefully I can cover that for you, because you probably are having that question right now. Why is it so important? It also leads to higher test scores. This is from the Evans and Sikora study. This is a 2014 study. The one I just cited earlier was done in 2010. So this essentially replicated what was found then. We find that books in the home have a positive payoff and improved test scores throughout the world. The relationship is strong, clear, and statistically significant in every one of the 42 nations we studied. So it's pretty clear cut. Books in the home have also been shown to be the most successful way to improve reading achievement of low-income children, which is going to be one of our target populations, as you'll see. So based on all of that, what would you think would be the mission of Jumpstart to Literacy? Well, I think you pretty well can figure it out. Get the books in the home and get them where they're most needed. Okay, so our target population, obviously, as I just mentioned, would be low-income children. Middle-income households average 13 books per child. Low-income homes, less than 4. And sadly, 61% of low-income children are growing up in homes without any books whatsoever. So that's one of our target populations, to find places where we can get books to those children. Also, preschoolers. The greatest amount of brain growth occurs between birth and age 3. And I just want to read you some of this stuff. By age 3, roughly 85% of the brain's core structure is formed. By age 2, a child's brain is as active as an adult's, and by age 3, the brain is more than twice as active as an adult's and stays that way for the first 10 years of life. So this period between 0 and 5 is a critical period for reading development. Now, of course, they're not learning to read at that moment, but what's going on is they're developing foundational skills that will make it easier for them to learn to read later on. So by doing that, we will have given them a jump start so that when they do enter school, they won't have to start by learning the things that they were perfectly capable of learning between 0 and 5. And again, same idea, they're a critical period for developing foundational skills, which I just mentioned. So what are these foundational skills? What's going on during this time that's so important? What are they learning? We're just reading them a book, right? So what's the big deal? Well, they're learning a lot of things when you read them a book. So those of you who remember reading Goodnight Moon, 2,000 straight days in a row. You probably got a little bored of doing that, but your child wasn't bored, and a lot was going on. So what they're learning is, one thing is alphabetic knowledge. They learn, if a child can learn it during this time, if he can identify all the letters of the alphabet in random order, that will be a significant accomplishment. Children, and it's precipitated by reading with your child at home. They learn something extremely important in learning to read, phonemic awareness, which is that this little symbol, that A or B or C or whatever it is, stands for a sound, just the awareness of that. That P stands for P. That's a huge thing to learn. And I'm sure that you probably recall when you're reading to your children or grandchildren, pointing that out. Oh, there's the B. Remember Dr. Seuss? Big A, little a, what begins with A? Auntie Annie's alligator, A. Those repetitions, I know another one. Big B, little b, what begins with B? Barber, baby, bubble, and a bumblebee. Anyway, those are important things, and kids love those repetitions of sounds. And when you read to them, that's what you're helping to develop. They increase their vocabulary, of course, and it helps them develop recall, which is a precursor to actual reading comprehension. So when you read them a story, you're talking about, you might ask them, oh, what happened, what did so-and-so do earlier in the story? Or what do you think is going to happen next? Things like that, so that when they start actually reading, it's a similar thing to comprehension. So how do we get these books into the home? So having made the case, I hope that it's extremely important. How do we get books to low-income families? All of our communities have places like the ones I'm about to show you. One of us is our River Falls food pantry. It's been a little more difficult lately to get books there because of the distribution methods that have had to change because of COVID. But I keep a carousel there where families who come in to get food can also select a book. We tell them take one book per child, per family, for each child in those ages. And if they take one for a kid who's a little older, we don't care, that's fine. Another place is a place in town in River Falls called Our Neighbor's Place. It's for families in transition. They're having difficulties maintaining their rents and so forth. And so when they visit that facility, we have a carousel there as well. Another one is extremely important, the WIC programs. Our Pierce County Health Department monitors that, but I think every town has a WIC program where families can come to get food stipends. And that's what we do. When they come to get their food stipends, we have books ready for them there. Again, it's been more difficult lately because they're not coming in personally. They've got different methods, but we've been finding creative ways to get books to them in spite of those problems. Another one is in Wisconsin, we have CESA programs, Cooperative Educational Service Agencies, which creates a link between the state and school districts and works with Head Start. And so we have social workers who will take a book and go into the home and read it to the kid when they're there, and leave it for them to call their very own. And by the way, if anybody's worried, we have permissions for all these pictures. Another way we get books in the home is we had family reading events at our library. Our purpose here is to create another venue where kids can pick up books, but also to model effective storytelling techniques. So our children's librarian, Miss Monica, will read the stories and then she'll show, she'll be modeling to parents how they can read the story so that they can use the book to best advantage. For some of us, I think that comes naturally, but not for everybody. So those family reading events, again, we've had to curtail those. We have no way of replacing that. Hopefully this will end and we can resume those. So now, having done that, what does it take to create a program like that? Well, there are a few things. First of all, establish a funding source. That goes without saying. It's not as expensive as you might think, which I'll talk about later. And the support I've gotten from and locally at River Falls, Rotary has been extremely helpful. We also get help from the Library Foundation, of which I happen to be a board member. We get help. We've written grants. We've gotten community foundation grants. And several times I've written an Alina Health grant where we link literacy to healthful living. And we draw a parallel there and make books available that way. Then you got to buy them. You got to go out and buy them. So where do you get them? Where do you get these things? There's several locations that I use, several sites. One is a place in Madison called Interstate Books for School. And you can get books there for around, you can get pretty nice books for under $2, which isn't bad. Scholastic Literacy Partners is another source if you're looking to try to do this. They make books less expensive to organizations such as this. And far away, there's an organization called First Book National Book Bank. You can go to First Book National Marketplace where anybody can buy books and they're reasonably priced. But the First Book National Book Bank makes books available to us at a cost of, generally it's about 75 cents a book. And they say it's free. Their publishers overstocks. They say they're free. They charge us 75 cents a book, which is they say that's for shipping. And the kind of books you can get there are really high quality books. I don't know if you can see this very well. There's books like this. The retail price on the one I'm showing you right now is $9.99. And again, these are brand new. A couple more. Love this. Panda Bear, what do you see? The price on this is $12.99. And then for establishing alphabetic knowledge and things, books like this, which children love. So you can get a lot of bang for your buck, or maybe book for your bang, I don't know how what you'd say about it, at a relatively inexpensive price. Another thing you have to do is you've got to take delivery. Now that sounds pretty easy, but when you suddenly find 20 cartons of books lined up, piled up outside your door, and you got to figure out a way to get them in the garage by a guy with back issues, it can get to be a little bit of an issue. You apply the labels. We always make sure that what we have on the book, so they know where they're getting them from. This label shows that they're getting it from Jumpstart and our partner, the Rotary Club in River Falls. We have other labels that show Jumpstart and the Library Foundation and whoever else assisted in purchasing those books. Then you have to take them to the sites. If anybody's interested in First Book, I can make this flyer available to you. But essentially what they're looking for is they're looking to contribute these books to organizations that will get them to primarily low-income families. I think they say 80%, but they don't check up on it and make sure that, we'll give a book to anybody who shows up. Like right now, people are coming to the library. We sent out to the WIC families that they could get a book if they just came to the library. We have a curbside pickup. They can do that. They just want to make sure. So they just want to make sure. But if somebody else comes and asks for a book who's not from WIC or whatever, we're going to give them a book. Anybody. And at the reading events, anybody who shows up doesn't have to be from any particular group. So to end, I guess I just like to give some reasons why you might want to choose this model if you indeed are looking to focus on literacy at your local club. As we pointed out, it's evidence-based. It's inexpensive. It's certainly aligned with the 4-way test. Will it be beneficial to all concerned when all kids can read? Society benefits in general. And in River Falls, we always say our mission is enhancing opportunities for youth, creating a better world for all. So it certainly aligns with that as well. It helps those in greatest need and promotes community involvement. So that's pretty much my spiel here about what it is that we do. I'm happy to take, I guess there was another slide. Oh, on behalf of the children who benefit from this, this is at one of the reading events. They wish to thank you for all of your literacy initiatives that you have. I know there's a lot of stuff going out there, and I think Patricia was going to mention some of those. Jumpstart is just one example. I'm not claiming in any way that it's the only way to do things. It's obviously just one small contribution. So that's it. Any questions? The others?
Well, I have a
Tony, you
question for you.
mentioned the budget for this. Can you give us an idea of the budget?
Well, it depends upon how many people you're going to bring the books to. My budget is about, it's been under $4,000 a year. So that's not a lot of money, at least I know it is to some in some ways, but that's not a lot. But again, if you have higher populations of low-income families, you're obviously going to need more. I really think I've saturated the River Falls area and even extended out into Ellsworth. Best case scenario is that we would try to do something like this in a place where the need is significantly greater, like in the Twin Cities, I'm sure, in large urban areas. I would like to do that. I don't have the manpower to do that right now, but hopefully there might be somebody out there who might pick up that task and try to do it. But the budget, again, when you're only spending 75 cents a book, you can get a lot of books. So to answer your question again is I think we've been averaging giving out around 10,000 books a year. So that gives you some idea.
I have a question.
Sure.
The brochure that you mentioned, does that include the sources of these books? You went through a list of sources where you can buy new books. Does that brochure include those or not?
The brochure I showed you is just the one from National Book, First Book, National Book Bank. So if you have that and you're looking to establish a partnership with them and be able to get books from them, that should have all the information you need. And if you leave your contact information, I'm happy to email you.
Quick question from observation. In both the masthead on your PowerPoint presentation, you show an ethnically diverse group, both sexually and ethnically. And then in your pictures that you showed later on toward the end, once again, you had boys, girls, and different nationalities exposed. Has anybody done any studies to indicate that if you have access to and accomplish a good reading program, that it also may alleviate or reduce the amount of, let's call it ethnic separation that seems to be the basis for now Black Lives Matter, Gay Lives Matter, et cetera, where it, we get the rioting on the streets because of that. And what we're doing is trying to help the kids understand reading. And my feeling is that if you can read and read a diverse group of books as you get older, you end up learning about other cultures, other ethnicities, and it's no longer the I'm the only one type thing. I'm just one of several. Comment, Terry.
Yeah, well, there's no question that that there is a huge achievement gap, and I didn't bring it up, but Wisconsin and Minnesota have huge achievement gaps between white and minorities, just huge. It's also a fact that minorities tend to be lower income, so it's more of a it's more of a socioeconomic issue than it is a racial issue or whatever you want to call it. So yes, there's no question whatsoever that if we can get where they're needed the most, if we get books to low-income kids, if that's the stress that we want to put on, we're going to get books to minorities. You know, you're gonna be more apt to help out a minority family if you target low income. It's just the nature of the beast. So I don't know if that answers your question or not. I mean, there's no simple answers to that issue. I mean, we can go into all the things about opportunity and access to pretty much everything, not just books, that affects all of that. So that's my comment. I don't know if you were looking for something more or if you had.
I know, again, I just, the slideshow that you gave us certainly has a great deal of ethnic mix in it. And I think that's important because unless you start dealing with different ethnicities, if you will, at an early age, it's very easy to suddenly find out you're 25 years old, you've never worked with a black kid, never know who an American Indian might be, you don't know any Orientals, and God knows the only Hispanic is the guy that mows my lawn. So you live in a closed culture almost, whereas if you start from an early age reading with others and sharing words and sharing sounds, by the time you get to be older, it's no big deal. It's just part of life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Everything you said there, I'm in alignment with that.
I was wondering, Tony, the number of families that are served with the Jumpstart to Literacy, how many books will the children get that during the year? I mean, is this just a one time when they can come in and get a book? Can they come in and by the end of the year get 5 or 10 books? I mean, how do you do that?
That's an excellent question, and I'm glad you brought it up. And I should have put it in there. I should have put it in reasons to do this kind of model. I neglected. I had it in there in an earlier presentation, and for some reason it got omitted. I think that's what the beauty of this is that, like at WIC, they would come in. Parents would get every other month, they would come to get their stipend. So if they took a book every time they came in, which they're perfectly encouraged to do, they would get 12, I'm sorry, let's see, they get what, 6 books. They get 6 books for each of their children, 0 to 5. So it's not like they're just getting one book. They're getting, and if that same family, oh great, there goes the lawnmower guy. If that same family, is that annoying to you?
I can't hear it. So.
You can't hear the lawnmower?
Not enough to be distracting.
Okay. If that same family has need to go to the food pantry, they can get another book when they go to the food pantry. If they find themselves in need of housing, chances are they might go to our neighbor's place and they could get a book there. So this is not just you get a book, now you're done. You're getting books regularly and increasingly so you can build up a library with this just by attending those venues. So I think-
Tony, I wondered if you have the Imagination Library active in your county, or if you've looked at that model.
No, I don't really know much about that one, and that's the first mention I've made of it. And if you have information about it, I would be interested in learning.
Oh yeah. So Olmsted County participates, and anyone who signs up with children age 0 to 5 receives a book in the mail every month.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
I'd
a
be
big deal.
interested in learning about that program. What's the town?
It's called Imagination Library. It's Olmsted County's United Way, Rochester, Minnesota. But it's a Dolly Parton
Oh, yeah. Okay.
product. Yeah.
Yeah.
Audrey, you might have more information about that.
Yeah. If there are any ideas that can get, that I can increase the number of books we get to kids, I'll be all over it. So I'd be definitely interested in seeing how that program works.
Tony,
Yeah.
I was thinking, yeah, this is Anoop here. I was thinking, we got all these little libraries, like could a district-wide program with within the Rotary, making the little libraries and populating those in different places. Would that be a good thing for a district-wide project?
Well, the little libraries, the little, they tend to be pretty small, and they contain books. They're mostly adult books. That's not to say we couldn't start putting children's books in there.
Yeah, we just make it for children's book.
Yeah. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. I don't think it would be a huge source, but it would increase our ability to do it. So it would be a good thing. I would definitely.
And give us the visibility too in the community.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With visibility.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So this is Audrey from Rochester, and
Hi.
we have a program like that in Rochester that we've been developing over a number of years, and we now have almost 200 mini libraries around around Rochester. And so what we do is we partner with families who and they just call us and say, we want a box of books, and we take them from, we have a very generous community who gives us lots of donations at the library. And so we fill boxes and families can then just come by and pick them up. And we always keep really high quality children's books. So we do have a lot of children's books. We did start this program targeting neighborhoods that were low income. And so making sure that we were getting out into low income neighborhoods. And we've had 2 partnerships, one with United Way and one with the local Chamber of Commerce's Leadership Greater Rochester, to really target those neighborhoods as much as possible. And so that has been really, really successful. The other thing that you get with mini libraries that we did not plan on, I mean, we were like you, Tony, trying to make sure we could get books into people's hands, is that when we surveyed homeowners that put the mini libraries in their yard or in their apartment buildings, that they felt safer. And that was not our intent, but because neighbors would talk to neighbors around the mini libraries, people also got to know their neighbors and felt safer in their neighborhoods. So I think that's really a good way to do it too, because not everybody, I mean, I understand, and we do partnerships like you're doing, Tony, with the food shelf and other places where low income people can pick up books. We have our friends of the library who actually make sure those books are in those locations. But we have found this really successful, and we really encourage people not to bring the books back to the mini libraries. We're happy to fill them, and we try and make it as easy as possible for our families to not have to buy books, but just we'll give them good donations. So I think there's lots of great ideas here.
Can you share your name? Who's that from Rochester?
Audrey.
Yep,
Audrey.
this is Audrey Betcher, and I'm the director at the Rochester Public Library.
Okay.
Audrey, that's one of the great things about doing a presentation like this is we hear from people like you. I would love to see a presentation of how you do things like that. It sounds remarkable. And I found that when I find organizations that do the kind of thing you do, we find ways to collaborate and play off each other.
Yep,
And so
absolutely.
I'd be happy to meet with you, or but most importantly, right now, I'd be happy to know the dynamics of the specifics of just how you make that program work.
Yeah, yeah. I'll actually I'll post the link in our from off our website. I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So Tony, have you heard about Sylvia C. Cohn? I mean, she's a pediatrician. So they have been doing some literacy program for children who are just born. I mean, essentially their theory is that in the first 2 to 3 years, we just read to the kids. This is working with Mayo and Elina, I guess.
Are you talking about Reach Out and Read?
Yes, reach out and read.
And in fact, interesting you bring that up, because I started Jumpstart to Literacy because I was trying to get a Reach Out and Read branch here in River Falls, and I wasn't able to do so. You need a pediatrician. It's an excellent program.
Yep.
It's really an excellent program. And what it does is it incorporates literacy into overall pediatric care. And doctors will give a book to a child when they come in for their wellness visits. And now, since I've started Jumpstart, we do have a branch here of Reach Out and Read. The thing with Reach Out and Read is that it doesn't target low income. It's for everybody, but that's okay. I mean, obviously, that's not a problem. But also, they only get a book when they come for their wellness visit, which as children age is less frequent. So they don't get as many books, but it is an excellent program. And it's certainly, anything I do is certainly isn't it certainly isn't designed to supplant anything like that. They can both help each other.
Okay. I mean, we had Sylvia as the speaker in our Arden Hills Shoreview Rotary Club. So.
Yeah, who did you have as a speaker?
Sylvia C. Cohn. So she's a pediatrician.
Yeah, there was a doctor that.
She's
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure if it's the same person, but yeah.
Okay.
Also from Arden Hills Shoreview, we call it another program from Roseville. There's something called pre-elementary literacy activities that you can do.
Yes.
In the libraries. And there are some things that are posted on the walls of the bookshelves that the kids get involved with, which happen to increase their ability to become literate. And with not a very large amount of money, with a district grant, we were able to get half a dozen of those things mounted in Arden Hills Shoreview, which was the same thing was done before us in Roseville. And apparently they're extremely successful if you talk to the librarians. They get the little kids love them and work on them and wear them out, in fact.
Yeah. Again, I'd be interested in knowing specifics about any of those things.
One of the things that another observation is that in our current pandemic world, where schools are learning remotely or teaching remotely, and then there are kids that are going to school 2 days a week and then they're at home on the remote reading or remote learning, it would seem to me that extending or expanding access to books and asking or seeking to have children read more books because they've got now the time. They've got between one online visit and another online visit, they've got time and they can do the reading. It would seem that we're in an environment which leads to or should lead to or could lead to a significant increase in people reading for the enjoyment of it and not realizing they're also learning from it.
Yes, that's right. We tricked them.
Mark, are you the one that mentioned the pre-literacy activities?
Mark Stogel was.
And what club, is that the Roseville Club that's doing that activity?
Roseville did it a few years before us, before we did it. Writing district grants are fun, but not that much fun.
No.
So I took a lot of copy and paste, changed the details and put it in our grant, and sure enough, got another grant.
I love it.
It's the company that makes these products is Bergeron, Burgeon,
Okay,
and they're in Phoenix.
great. You're gonna forward this information, Patricia, or somebody?
If Mark, would you mind putting that in the chat so that
Yeah, I'll
we
send it
can
to you,
have it?
Patricia.
Pardon
Okay.
me?
To Patricia?
Yeah,
Okay.
or to the group. Maybe the group would want to.
All right.
That'd be great if you could just put it in the
Yeah,
chat.
to everyone. Got it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. Well, this has been great ideas. And thank you so much, Tony, for the information. I am glad I know you've talked about it, but it's a very exciting way to get books into the hands of children. And Audrey, I didn't even know the library was doing that. I love our library, and to know the good things that are going on. So I'd like to invite all of you. We're going to reinstitute the literacy district team. So if you're interested in literacy and you would like to join that team, we're going to be meeting October 6th at noon. And I'm going to be sending out an invite to Kathy and I, really Kathy, we're going to be sending out an invite, but we'll be sure to send an invite to you all to see if you want to join that literacy team, which will be starting on October 6th. Are there any other comments or questions?
Say, Patricia, this is Kenny Closter down in North Mankato.
Hey,
And
Kenny.
Tony, I wanted to thank you for what you're doing. And I had a question here I jotted down at the very beginning of your talk. And so we're talking about books in the home, and we read to our children constantly. And I still personally prefer, having a hardcover book. Has there been any research or studies regarding having a physical book versus having a digital access to books?
Wow, that's a good one. If there are, I'm not aware of it. While I don't want to discourage technology from advancing, from my part, having that physical, interacting with that book physically, I don't think there's any way to replace that. But as far as any hard data to say that works better over a computer screen, I'm not aware of it.
There is some data, though, related to the light of impact on a children's eyes from an iPad or maybe a Kindle. So I don't know that. I know there is research. I know the iPad really bothers me after a while when I read. And so for developing eyes or vision, I don't know, that may be something to look at.
Well, you got to remember too, that these books the children aren't interacting with these books just when they're being read to. If these books are scattered around the house, children are picking them up on their own, and they're looking through them, and they're gaining benefit on their own. So to me, that would be something that would recommend the actual book to be in the home, rather than the computer screen is going to be open like that all day long. For that.
That's definitely something to look into. And I'm sure there will be a lot of research related to it.
Right.
Well, it is now 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for your attendance. Big round of applause to Tony. Thank you for the information. And we will